we have on our platform to give the insights of acquisition, compensation on land acquisition. We have amongst us Honorable Mr. Justice Rajiv Bhalla, former judge of Punjab and Haryana High Court, who is now a who is a senior advocate and is practicing in Supreme Court. We already have on this platform 2 sessions by Honorable Mr. Justice Rajiv Bhalla on unlocking of revenue law. And once it comes to the matter of land acquisition, understanding the revenue law, civil law, or for that matter, any law, one name which automatically strikes in the mind of any student of law, lawyer, or for that matter, anybody, be it an academician, we immediately strike with the name of Honorable Mr. Justice Rajiv Bhalla. Amongst us, we have Professor Shruti Bedi, who is teaching in ULS Punjab University. Before I formally ask her to welcome on behalf of ULS and Beyond Law CLC, Professor Shruti is a profound writer. She comes on the various platforms to disseminate knowledge. She has also, besides ULS being patronaging Beyond Law CLC, we also had the occasion where Professor Ratan Singh, Professor Shruti Bedi, who have given their insights, what the students are learning. We have also been lucky enough that their insights have been given on this platform. It is a rare occasion where academicians and lawyers have joined hands together to learn the nuances of law. Over to Professor Shruti Bedi.
Thank you so much, Vikas ji. It's always a pleasure to be here, and more so when I see Justice Rajiv Bhalla as the one who's going to be giving the talk. And it's a rare occasion when one starts the week with Justice Rajiv Bhalla and also ends it with Justice Rajiv Bhalla. In fact, at the University Institute of Legal Studies recently on Monday, on 11th, we had hosted him, and he was the chief guest for the Arbitral Award writing competition. And he is here today, and I am been asked by you to welcome him. What better, how good can it get? So I thank you for that. And I would also like to appreciate what Beyond Law CLC has been doing for all the law students. On behalf of UILS, I extend my gratitude for that, because the students of law, some of them are extremely keen on learning the finer and practical aspects of the legal subjects that they have been learning. And this is the best use of their time that they have been made to. So Justice Rajiv Bhalla, pleasure to have you back here on this online platform. And I would just like to say one thing, that justice is the first promise of the nation. And that is what the preamble of the Constitution, the law of this land, also talks about. All your lectures, all your expert inputs, whether it is online or whether it is in person at the University Institute of Legal Studies or on platforms such as this, have all been for extending the knowledge and increasing the base of learning for the students of law. So thank you so much for being here again with us. And on behalf of the University Institute of Legal Studies and Beyond Law CLC, I extend a warm welcome to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti, and thank you, CCL, thank you, ULIS, and I can't but thank the university of which I am a dean, that's Guru Nanak Dev University, who also allowed me to speak on 2 separate occasions. Actually, when we started these webinars, the pushing force behind all this was Mr. Chhatrat and Mr. Sapan Dheer. Well, some of us may be suffering from a little webinar fatigue also, because there are so many of them going around the country that if you open any page or if you have any WhatsApp message which comes at an odd hour, you always say, oh, another webinar. But eventually those will survive which have quality and not quantity. There are some which are, and this is one platform where the quality is, in my opinion, brilliant. We've had people from all over the country, from all over, from Delhi, from Chandigarh, from the Supreme Court, from retired judges, from High Court judges. Everybody's being brought on one platform. The idea is not to actually inflict on you or harass you at an odd time on anything about the law, but is to, you know, as we move from one curfew to the other, from one lockdown to the other, to keep you busy in some way and impart some knowledge, whatever little we know or little we understand, to impart this knowledge to all of you. So today's topic is again a very niche topic, and not everybody practices on the land acquisition side. And so therefore, please bear with me for a little while. I'll start, basically, I'll first start by giving you the basis for this law. The law of land acquisition, as you may know, comes from a doctrine called the doctrine of eminent domain. It's a doctrine that is so brutal in its operation. I use the word brutal because I've used that in one judgment of mine also, that all the government does is notify that it needs your land, and your land is gone. There's no recourse to you. You can't say no. You can only challenge it on some technicalities in a writ petition, etc. So it's so brutal in its consequence. And then all you get is some compensation which is determined on principles that a poor man does not understand. And in the Indian context, we not only have for public purpose, we also have for companies. We have for corporates. We have for private individuals. So we really don't know what dubious acquisition is going on, what is happening, what is not happening. Therefore, I use this word brutal. And there's another reason why I use it. If you'll see the amount of land acquired in this country, from the date this act came into force in 1894, the new act, I'm not dealing with the new act.
Sir, sorry to bother you. Could we come closer to a broad bandwidth, because it's always reflecting on your screen that there's low bandwidth. Because of that, the voice is cracking. Could you ask Yajur or Shubham to help you across? Meanwhile,
I'll just. It's cracking up. My voice is cracking up. Let me just.
It's only because it's reflecting that network bandwidth is low.
Okay. Otherwise, you can hear me. There's something wrong with the bandwidth. Put on the niche wala. Okay, I'll continue. Meanwhile, we'll try and get a. Okay. Notice in acquisition, I hope everybody can hear me, because I'm going to say something very important and very significant.
So I will ask on the chat box. I will just ask on the chat box.
Yeah, please.
Meanwhile, Yajur or Shubham can check it out as to whether
it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Everybody can hear me, please.
Yes. Now it's better. Yes, it's better. It's better. Everybody's saying it's better.
95% of the land which is acquired from rural areas. So there is this perceptible bias to acquire from rural areas for factories, for roads, for housing projects. Try acquiring land in an urban area. Do you think anybody will allow his house to be taken for industrial project? No, you never have that except in the Improvement Trust Acts. So now, leaving this part out, we also have the constitutional protection for the act. It's in the concurrent list. Therefore, the center can also legislate and the states also keep on amending it. Now, when the act came into force, property under the constitution was a fundamental right. But after the amendment of the constitution, property was removed from its being a fundamental right and became just a simple civil right or a right enforceable in law. So therefore, you cannot challenge on the ground that a fundamental right has been infringed. It's only a civil right. You go to the High Court sometimes only because of violation of procedure. which is violation of a civil right. So please understand, right to property is not a fundamental right. Even right to receive compensation is not a fundamental right. But there is one article in the Constitution which the Supreme Court has interpreted. That's Article 300A, which says, except in due course of law. So now the law would become the Land Acquisition Act, and the Supreme Court has struck down all laws where no compensation was provided. So therefore, that's how we got saved. So we came back to making it into another a situation where your rights to receive compensation were protected. Now, just having given you this little background, because this is something people don't realize. People simply come to the High Court challenging under Article 226, Section 4 notification not within time, 6 not within time. Those days now are also over, because 4 and 6, this act stands repealed now. I hope you're all aware that it stands repealed by a new act, that right to fair compensation. Now, unfortunately, under that act, I am not aware of, and I'm quite sure most of you are not also aware of, any acquisitions which have been completed under that act. Because the process is so difficult under that act that it's almost impossible to acquire land, particularly social hearings, rehabilitation. But the principles for assessment of compensation, assessment of the amount to be awarded to people, remains almost the same as was under the 1894 Act. So what I will be doing is, as I go for assessment, explaining assessment, I'll deal with the 1894 Act. The provisions here are similar. If there's slight difference, I'll explain to you what's the difference and why. Now, I can quickly take you through right straight to the pronouncement of the award by the collector under the old act. That's the 1894 Act. So please remember this, the old act stands repealed. All acquisitions will take place under the new act. When the collector pronounces his award, there are certain factors he has to take into consideration. And those factors are prescribed under the Land Acquisition Act itself. They are Section 23. Can I just quickly read to you Section 23? Section 23 has I'll just read it out to you because it's important. Because we all seem to understand that compensation is to be dealt with in a very different way. So you all use the word compensation. But when you Land Acquisition Act, you divide compensation into two parts. One is the market value, and two will be the solatium and interest. They together would constitute compensation. Market value is separate. Market value is not a part of solatium and interest. Solatium and interest is on the market value. Together they will constitute compensation. There is a slight change in the new act, which I'll explain to you as we go along. Now the first point is 23(1). I'm dealing with the old act, please. Be clear, I'm dealing with the old act. In determining the amount of compensation to be awarded for land acquired under this act, the court shall take into consideration, first, the market value of the land at the date of publication of the notification under Section 4. Now, this is equal under the new act to publication of the notification under Section 11. The same principle applies. So, the date on which to determine the market value is Section 4 of the old act and Section 11 of the new act. Neither before that nor after that. That's the date on which it will be calculated. Then secondly, the damage sustained to the person interested by reason of taking any standing crops, trees, which may be on the land at the time the collector is taking possession. Thirdly, the damage sustained by the person interested at the time of collectors taking the land by reason of severance of such land. This I'll deal with in detail, because there were certain questions put to me regarding severance. Fourthly, damage sustained by the person, by the collector taking possession of the land by reason of the acquisition injuriously affecting his other property, movable or immovable in any other manner, or his earnings. Fifthly, in consequence of the acquisition of land by the collector, the person interested is compelled to change his residence or place of business, the reasonable expenses, if any, incidental to such change. And sixthly, the damage, if any, bona fide resulting from diminution of the profits of the land between the time of the publication of a declaration under Section 6 and the time of collectors taking possession of land. It's very rarely that you will come across any lawyers taking up all these points or even one of these points. Everybody confines himself to the market value. So I'll just take you to how the market value is to be determined. But there is one important thing. There is Section 24. If anybody is making a note, please make note of Section 24. These are matters to be neglected in determining compensation. The Land Acquisition Act contains both factors. Factors to be taken into consideration and factors to be neglected. So if you have to understand the Land Acquisition Act and the method of compensation, assessing compensation, you have to start with Section 23, then go on to Section 24, and the others are all procedural. Most of us, even as lawyers or judges, do not bother to read Section 23, do not bother to read Section 24. These are factors which are contained in the Act itself, and these are to determine the jurisdiction of the collector while assessing compensation. All these factors are in the new Act also. In addition to small points, they've made sale deeds, etc. etc. Now, a question would validly arise that these are different factors, but how do you assess market value of a parcel of land which has been acquired? Now, the first principle of assessing market value under the Land Acquisition Act, and the time-honored principle, is that it's the principle of it's a thumb rule. There is no exact algebraic or mathematical formula for assessing market value, and there never can be. The basic rule is what a willing vendor would pay to a willing vendee. Because I'm being forced to give my land. It's not as if I'm giving my land voluntary to the government. I'm not giving it voluntary. So the principle that's been set down right since 1894, and even before there was an act, and even which got all this law from England, what a willing vendor would pay to a willing vendee. You have to remember, it is irrelevant for what purpose it is being acquired. It is irrelevant who is acquiring it. All that is relevant is my rights in the land, my right of ownership, my right of possession. Now I can just explain to you what's the meaning of ownership. Ownership is a bundle of rights which enables me to enjoy the land, enjoy its usufruct, enjoy the possession, to give it on rent, to mortgage it, to lease it, to sell it. So it's a bundle of rights. What the government acquires is this bundle of rights, and it must pay this bundle of rights, which I think is the reasonable amount which I would get in case I willingly sold the amount. This is the fundamental principles of land acquisition. A willing buyer selling to a willing purchaser. But more often than not, we get stuck in all the technicalities of small plot, big plot, distance, developmental cut, not developed land, and we forget the basic foundation. We must remember the foundation. The theories that are contained in law are always necessary. They are not just empty theories in law. There's a reason for that. These theories are there so that a lawyer who is putting forward my case whose land is acquired, or an honorable judge who's deciding the case, should understand what he is deciding or what she is deciding, and what is the basic foundational theoretical basis for acquisition, and that I'm being deprived of my land. I am being forced in public interest to sacrifice. Nowadays, we are very fond of all this sacrifice and nationalism, etc., etc. But when I am deprived of my land, do I get reasonable compensation or do I get market value? Now coming to how to assess this market value, how to unlock this question. Every piece of land, we're talking about Punjab, Haryana, I think all over the country has an identifiable number. And when the government acquires or any authority acquires, it just does not acquire the land of person A. It acquires the land of persons A, B, C, D, E. So what I own maybe 2 acres and what is acquired is maybe 200 acres. So obviously the value which I will place on my 2 acres cannot reflect the value of 200 acres. This is the first, I would call it injustice that visits a person, but that's the settled law. That on the one hand, we say willing seller to willing buyer, but then we say, oh, your land is 2 acres, part of 200. So obviously you can't get for 2 acres because the rate for 2 acres will be much more than a rate for 200 acres. As a parcel of land becomes bigger and bigger, the rate begins to rise. A small piece of land will always fetch a higher price than a larger piece of land. So the question arises now, what do you do with a small piece? My land is 2 acres. How do I determine its market value to reflect my will or my will to sell? Your will is the first casualty while assessing compensation. Though we pay a lot of respect to it in theory, but the first casualty in assessing compensation is your will or your right or what you think is the price. You can keep screaming and shouting and saying, no, days of 2,000 rupees a acre. They will assess it at 100. I give you an example because I've been a lawyer on the land acquisition side for a lot of time. There was once a matter that was under the Requisition Acquisition Act where the collector awarded 15 rupees, 15. We took it to the district judge. The district judge allotted 50 rupees. We took it to the High Court single bench. High Court allotted 150 rupees. We took it to LPA. LPA awarded 350. So from 15 rupees, we went up to 350 and 350 was affirmed by the Supreme Court. This is 350 per marla of an acquisition of 1960. So what I'm trying to tell you is your wish is the first casualty in assessment of compensation. And more often than not, this is what happens. The collector will always try to give you the least possible compensation. The next court will increase it a little bit and the High Court will also increase it. And since it's always money matters, so there's always a circumstance of let's not give too much, let's give too little. We don't realize how difficult it is for a person to part with his land. And there is another aspect. I expect all of you who are lawyers sitting here to urge this point sometime, that you are not acquiring land. You are acquiring livelihood of a farmer. You are acquiring his life's earnings. It's his livelihood which is gone. Nobody compensates for livelihood. The new act does so now. It provides for rehabilitation. That's why I use the word that this act is probably the most brutal act ever enacted by any government, which deprives a person of not only his property, but his livelihood. And please, my request to all of you is please try and understand the significance of what I'm saying. I'm not saying this so as to create an impact or to create something as that make you, it's just to understand. A poor farmer spends his entire life living off the land, and one day his land gets acquired. So what does he do? Can you think for yourself, those huge tracts of land which have been acquired around Chandigarh, land which have been around Gurgaon, where are those people gone? All those who got good compensations are roaming around in cars and all, but what about the other people? So there was another aspect of compensation. Where is the village barber gone? Where is the kumhar gone? Where is the person who was repairing the stuff in the village gone? Where have all those people gone? So when you acquire land in a village, it's not just land of A. You acquire the livelihood of a person, and along with that, you acquire the livelihood of a large number of people who are there. The old act had no such thing. The new act has all that. That is why governments are finding it difficult to implement this act. And from the announcement made by the government in this new package, there was one sentence which said land acquisition. And my hunch is this act is going to be amended to remove the socially relevant part of this act, where schemes were made for rehabilitation of everybody, because that is becoming an impediment in acquiring land. So this might be coming soon, and you as lawyers may eventually have to challenge all that. Whoever does it, let's see what happens. Now, coming to how do you assess the price of a plot? If it's a small plot and you are 200, 300 acres, you will have a plot of, there'll be circumstances which will vary from each case. No two cases are similar. There'll be sale deeds of your land. There'll be sale deeds from within the acquired land. There'll be sale deeds in your village adjoining the acquired land. And then there'll be sale deeds of adjoining villages somewhere nearby. So the best transactions are sale deeds. Sale deeds are per se admissible under section 52A of the Land Acquisition Act. So the best circumstance is a sale deed of this very land. That means the acquired land. And better than that is if you have sold some land, that will be the best factor. Followed by sale deeds of in the acquired land, sale deeds adjoining the acquired land, and sale deeds abutting this land or even in the adjoining village. But you have to give the distance of the land. You have to give the quality of land. So therefore, to also exhibit a revenue document, and normally the Patwari of the area comes in to give evidence that this is the nature of the land. This is the distance of this factor or this sale deed from this acquired land. This is the distance of this. And then you give that entire chart, you get the village out, and all the factors circumstances are put there. Then we come to the quality of the land. Obviously, if your land is chahi, and if it is banjar, the rates will be different. So the quality of the land is important, but there is a small caveat here. If the land is being acquired for an urban area, then it doesn't make a difference what is the quality of the land, what is the nature of the land. We have had cases where even semi-mountainous areas have been given the same rate of compensation across the board. Though they would have been less, but there are cases where even less has been given. But my opinion is, and there are lots of judgments on that point also, which you can easily type and get out, that it is once it's needed for one particular purpose, then it doesn't matter what is the quality of the land. And the answer, I'll give you the answer why. Because the government doesn't have to develop the land anymore. They are just going to auction it, divide it into plots and auction it. It's the other people who will do it. So you have to do nothing in it. You have to just prove what is the location of the best factor that you are relying upon. And then comes, as far as plots are concerned, then comes a developmental cut and a cut for the size of the plot. Courts veer around to the view that since a small plot and a large plot of land will fetch different rates, so there must be a cut applied. Now, if you see the judgments of the Supreme Court and even our High Court, this cut varies from 20% to 70%. 20% to 70%. But while I was preparing this, I just saw one judgment of, if you want to, you can make a note of it. This 2018 SCC 2, Volume 2, Supreme Court Cases 474, Maya Devi versus State of Haryana, where development cut after examining all those judgments of 70%, 80%, 30%, 40%, they have applied a cut of 1/3, the Supreme Court. So this may be of help somewhere, because I personally feel it was going to ridiculous lengths. There's a judgment which is even, there's a cut of 80% also in one judgment, but then that's a perception of a bench. This is no hard and fast rule. These are rules which apply to the facts of each case. So this judgment has actually taken into account almost all the judgments and then come to this 1/3 cut. Now, this is a cut on account of the size. Then there's another cut to be applied, which is the developmental cut. Now, if the land is required for development of an industrial estate or development of a residential estate, almost 30% of the land or 40% of the land goes in roads, parks, various other infrastructure requirements which are necessary to utilize the land. The courts, unfortunately, and I use the word unfortunately, have said that since the person acquiring the land is acquiring an undeveloped piece of land, and when he uses it for development, he will not be able to use 50% or 30% of the land. Therefore, we'll apply a cut of 20, 30, 40, 50 on you, further cut. So 30 plus 30, eventually you reach 60. But my opinion now as a lawyer also is that it is immaterial what you use it for. It is my land, you have taken it. If you don't want to use 30%, if you are using it for roads, why should I suffer? This is a matter which, I don't know, somebody will take up, one of you will develop an argument like that. And then, because originally there was no such thing. Originally, one chunk of land was taken and no development cuts were put. Because development cut is not because if you are building a colony, a government colony, Huda, Puda, anybody, and you're building a road, you're actually adding to the value of the plot sold. If you are building a park, if you are building a club, which you say are public utility services, or if you're providing sewerage, if you're providing electricity lines, how am I concerned whose land is going? So I basically have joined issue on that, and this is joining an issue on an intellectual plane. But how am I concerned if you don't utilize my land, or if you don't utilize my whatever you have? It's up to you to utilize it or not. But then the law as of today is that there will be a cut. But still, somebody has to start pushing the envelope. We can't always accept. You all know, law is a dynamic entity. It changes from time to time. Today's law nobody would think about 40 years ago that you could have such laws. So these are two parts as far as small plot and undeveloped plot. Now there's another factor which is even better than a sale deed, That is, if adjoining to your land or from your land, some land has already been acquired by the government. That means that's the rate which the government has already paid. Whether it's been paid up to the High Court, whether it's been paid up to the Supreme Court, those are actually the best instances, because nobody can argue with them. Small plot, big plot, already everything is done. Cuts have been applied, development cuts have been applied, everything has been done. So the best is an award already pronounced by the collector or the court or the High Court or the Supreme Court. Best is that award. So when you start working on this, please try and find an award. But again, you will have to produce a side plan showing how far it is from you. And that's why the revenue lawyer in me comes out and says that you'll have to determine as per how many killas are there. So you should be able to read the Akshajara to say what's the distance. So what's the size of 1 killa, and then how many is there, you'll be able to tell the distance. Now there's another very important thing which all lawyers who practice on the land acquisition side always maintain. Very rarely would you find a lawyer from the land acquisition arguing from the file. They all make a chart, one chart, which contains the date of notifications, which contains the instances. These are the sale deeds. These are the agreement to sell which are registered. Here is the quality. Here is the rate per acre or per marla. Here is the distance from the acquired land. And this is the name of the vendor. This is the name of the vendee. And it's in village so and so. So what you do is you make this complete chart, and along with the Akshajara, or let's say the village location map, you hand that over to the bench. And then you start your arguments that, look, acquired on 1st of January 2000, this is my land is this, these are the factors I'm taking into account. And you give that chart, prepared chart, to the bench, and the bench takes 5 minutes to understand what you are arguing. You don't have to go through oral evidence, you don't have to go through pleadings, because after all, eventually, like I told you right at the outset, it is not a mathematical equation that you're going to decide. There is some discretion available to every court. It's basically thumb and what a willing buyer would sell to a willing purchaser. Something which I would say is an impossibility to determine for a court. So the court takes the best option and determines whatever it can. This is a method of putting everything before the court. Now, these factors apart, there are those value, quality, etc., etc. I think you're all more or less should be aware of all this. It's not very difficult. Then, once it is market value, you need to know the quality of the land. What of the land? What's the difference? Now, there'll be sale deeds where Chahi land will be sold at 1,000 rupees an acre. I'm just giving an example. It's an impossibility in today's times. 1,000 is, and Banjar Kadeem will be sold at 500 per acre. So how do you get over that? That I should also be given the same rate. That's a question that arises before the court. In such situations, then the court makes for Chahi so much, Nehri so much, Banjar Kadeem so much, so and so amount so much, the quality of the land. So there is another, you might have a system there. Then you have another system called the belting system. I hope most of you must have heard of belting system. Meaning thereby, now suppose you are acquiring land which is situated along a road. Obviously the land which is in front will fetch a better rate than the land at the back. So it keeps reducing from front to back like that, maybe 10 rupees, 5 rupees, depending upon whatever it is, or percentage points. So it's not, there are so many factors that count. Now there's another factor which some courts have applied. Sometimes the Supreme Court accepts and sometimes it rejects. Even the Supreme Court is not consistent, because the basic foundation, like again I'm telling you, is there is the only rule in land acquisition is that there is no rule. There is no rule. It's the best rule which the judge has to find and the lawyer has to persuade. So they've even sometimes multiplied rental multipliers, applied rentals. What is the rent the land was fetching when it was acquired? There are circumstances where rents, but if you do it, you see, most of our people do not put it honestly as to what is the rental, so they land up into trouble. Now there's another document which you can rely upon. That's an agreement to sell. Now an agreement to sell, after I think 2001, there's an amendment in the Registration Act also, in the Transfer of Property Act also, can be registered. It can be registered. So if you have a registered agreement to sell, you can produce that as evidence also. Even if it is not being developed, even if it has not attained the value of a sale deed. It's not become a sale deed as yet. But there's a catch to all these documents. And that has come in a recent judgment of the Supreme Court. Though the Act says, even the new Act says, that there will be evidence of the sale, but the Supreme Court has recently said that you will still have to prove that this is a bona fide sale deed. It will be a sale deed, all right, but you will have to prove the bona fides of the sale deed. Meaning thereby we have sort of been knocked back to a situation almost 30 years ago, where we used to produce the vendor and the vendee also. So the safest course for anybody who practices on the law's legal side is to summon the vendor and the vendee also, that this is a bona fide transaction. So it's not just merely putting in the just because you tender a sale deed on tendering can be exhibited and is admissible in evidence. But please do support it by evidence, because we don't know, tomorrow the rule may change, somebody may interpret it to the contrary, and then again you'll be in trouble, and then all those documents will get knocked off. So basically, these are factors for assessing market value. I'm sorry, you know, in a webinar, the time is always limited and one is rushing through, but one tries to give whatever best you know. Now we come to one very important thing, which is called severance. Now, what is severance? Should I be compensated for severance, or is the loss too remote? What is the nature of this severance? Severance is if I have a parcel of land, which on account of acquisition is divided into two parts. One part is acquired by the government or whoever it is, and the second part is left out, but I cannot use it, or I cannot use it to its full potential. Then I'm entitled to some compensation on account of severance. You will find severance under the chapter in a commentary on Land Acquisition Act. I can read it out, but then reading is a very boring thing in a webinar. So I'll avoid going to that area. But it has been referred to in a very, very recent Supreme Court judgment. It's been explained as to, so if you can just note the judgment. That judgment is, one is an old one. It is 1991 for SCC, page 195, Perrier versus State of Kerala. It's in para 20, what is to be given and how it is to be given. And then there's a recent judgment called Wazir and another versus State of Haryana, 2019, 13 SCC, page 101, para 31. Here's a case where the High Court had granted severance, but the Supreme Court said, no, not entitled to severance, and withdrew the severance. I'll just read one line so as to clarify this concept from this judgment. Sorry, I'm taking a little time reaching there. It says, normally additional component of compensation in terms of 23(1) is granted when a landholder suffers damage as a result of acquisition to the extent that the holding that he is left with stands comparatively diminished in terms of quality and value. For instance, if a railway track is to be built through an agricultural land held by a person leaving two different halves with him, it would be impossible for him to carry on agricultural operations at an optimum level. This would lead to a reduction in the value of halves that he is left with. So this is basically just giving an example, because as a High Court judge, I've dealt with one matter where after acquisition, their land was divided into two. Unfortunately, they had not requested for severance compensation. They had come to me in a writ petition asking the railways to provide access to their land. So I allowed the writ petition and directed the railways to provide access. But if they had taken severance, then they would have not been entitled to this. So even this is part of your claims which you can do under this act. And under the new act, all this is permissible. They have to grant you access to these lands. So please be careful when you, particularly the younger lot sitting here will be dealing with the new act. By the time the new act comes in, people like will, and the matters come up to the Supreme Court or anywhere, I'll be long dead and buried, because these things take almost 20 years to come. Now, leaving severance part, there are factors which are not to be considered, which I just read out. It's the next section. I think I need to go into all that. And once compensation is determined, then under the old act, the spoliation was 30% plus 9% and 15%. But now it is 100% under the new act. Can I just point out that part to you? That is why governments have stopped acquiring land. I can just point out that to you under the new act. It's a remarkable act which unfortunately governments are uncomfortable with, because their corporations can't pay this money, and primarily because their industrialists who need the land cannot pay this money. So it's a game between industry and agriculturists. And as often happens, it's always the poor agriculturist who loses out. Everybody takes away his land and he gets nothing in return. So this will come to, 1 minute, where is that? It's section 30. Please note it. It's section 30 of the new act. After he determines it, impose a spoliation amount equivalent to 100% of the compensation amount. In that act, market value is the compensation. It's a totally different system of, they have tried to make it like the MACT Act. There is a formula at the back, there are schedules at the back, which I, for one, being I would call myself a purist as far as the law is concerned. You cannot place determination and judicial adjudications into cast iron formulae. How can you decide that I speak against the formula placed under the Motor Vehicle Act also. How can you place these things in formulae? You are determining what is the value to me, and you are placing it in a formula and a schedule. So I don't know, eventually this has not been challenged anywhere, and I'm quite sure it will not be challenged, because everybody wants the easy way out. So therefore, to apply all these things is wrong, but then that's the way they've done it. And in the plus there is the 12% also. So I think land acquisition as a career is almost over now in view of this new act. There's no land being acquired. If it's being acquired, it's all being stuck into various parts. So briefly speaking, I've taken you through this compensation part. Now I think as quickly as I could and as briefly as I could. So we can now have a question and answer session, and everything is open to all of you. If anybody wants to say anything, please start.
Yes, sir. So Sahil asks, can we claim compensation of land when we have ownership of land, but not and do not have the possession of Gram Panchayat, Gram Sabha land, part of unauthorized colony?
There are 4 questions in this.
Yes, sir.
Can you just split them up?
So he says, can we claim compensation of land when we have ownership of land?
See, I told you, ownership is a bundle of rights. There is proprietary rights and there are possessory rights. Both which you can sell, you can mortgage, you can lease, you can use for whatever purpose. You can even take a loan on that. If Mr. Vijay Walia could take a loan on his on the symbol of the airline, you can obviously take it if you're the owner. So you don't have to be in possession. But if there is a tenant in possession, then there'll be a split of the compensation between you and the tenant. I'm answering the question slightly differently. Now, if he is an unauthorized occupation of land and he is not an owner, then he is not entitled to compensation. Does that answer it?
Yes. So the other question I have not been able to gather it. Now Vishal Agarwal asks, your take on condonation of delay in view of Amrit Lal's judgment, and how much delay can be condoned? Any judgment on the same?
The new act or the old act?
Vishal posted on the group. Meanwhile, Aditya Pratap Rana, is there any difference formed of the quality of land due to division in severance? Will the determination of such divided land differ?
See, severance does not give you a right to have complete compensation. Why? Because the government has not taken either possession and has not taken ownership. Your only right which is affected in severance is your right to enjoy the land to its hilt. Meaning thereby, you may have to go 2 kilometers to access your land. You may not be able to access your land. In that situation, the compensation would vary. Where access is different, it would vary. So it's not as if you'll be entitled to entire compensation. There'll be a degree of land. It's not that because you got 100 rupees of marla for the land which is acquired, so you will get 100 for the severance. It's the actual damage which is caused to your right of enjoyment of your land. That is what will be compensated.
Vishal has clarified it is under the old act.
Can
I read the question again?
Yeah, please do. Continuation of delay under
yes.
At which stage? Can you request him?
Vishal,
unmute him. He can explain to me if he's somewhere.
I will unmute Vishal. So actually, the difficulty is today we started with the registration of the forms, and those who are trying to register through the email, etc., they have not been, because we do not have the SS. After that, we have created a ID, etc. Vishal Agarwal. Then in that eventuality, they are not being able to do. So we have gone live on the Facebook. So at least those who couldn't join the meeting, they're watching us on the live. And they can also, the persons watching on the Facebook, they can also post the questions. We can take the questions from the Facebook also. Meanwhile, sir, Abhinav Ramakrishnan, what is belting system?
Belting, yeah. Now, belting is a system which normally even the Supreme Court frowns upon, but there are some cases where they have upheld it. Like I explained to you, belting means that the land which has been acquired, because when larger chunks of land are acquired, some land is in the front, maybe it abuts a road, or it abuts a colony, or it abuts already some urban area, and there is a land which is say 2 kilometers away, acquired land is large, so that will obviously have a lesser value. So they start this process that land up to 100 meters, 100 rupees, below that 75, then 25. But there are judgments which you'll find, which if you can just send me a mail, I'll try and find them and send them to you, where they have said this system is an artificial analysis because it's a contiguous piece of land. So how do you artificially put the, that at this point we will put a cut and make it in the first belt, second belt, third belt. So how will you artificially? So this system has inherent within it a level of arbitrariness which the Land Acquisition Act does not countenance. Though assessment itself, like I told you, is the rule of the thumb, there is a huge degree of arbitrariness in it. But that arbitrariness must also relate to some rational process of reasoning. That process of reasoning you can't discard. You can't just sit down and say, okay, this land is right next to the highway, so I granted 100 rupees. But this land is 100 meters away, so I granted 80 rupees. Now that must be founded on some material available to you. That there is material to show that sale deeds which are 100 meters away from the road are of a lesser value. Now there may be cases, there's a matter which I'm now personally dealing with in the Supreme Court, where the High Court, I won't say which High Court, has applied a development cut for a parcel of land which is to be used for an electricity substation. And the judgment, and it's not our High Court. I'd like to clarify right here.
The High Court of Punjab and Haryana High Court, because we'll know that you are from Punjab and Haryana High Court.
So therefore, you'll wonder it's probably that High Court. It's some other High Court.
Your observation, not from our High Court. Some people, since we have the participants all pan India, so it's being clarified that it's not from Punjab and Haryana High Court.
So what I'm trying to tell you is, so what the Honorable Judge, and probably I think he did not get proper assistance from the council also, he applied a development cut saying roads have to be made, buildings have to be constructed, offices have to be made. He forgot that all they had to do was an electricity substation, and that land patch of 20 acres was only to have those poles, etc. There were no offices, no roads, no land, and he's applied a cut of 70% for developmental cut. So I'm saying there are, things still continue like this. So please be very careful when you apply all these things, belting, these cuts. They are all depending upon, and huge factor is what is the bench. I don't mean that you know the judge. What I mean to say is that it depends on what is his thinking on land acquisition. Some people think that government is paying compensation out of its pocket and it's a public person, so we must not give much. Some people have a different concept, that it's the agriculturist who's being deprived of his land. Like maybe I would be of that view. So next question. Abhinav, is that okay?
Can I ask my question?
Sir, Vishal has been unmuted.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I would really confine my question to filing of RFAs, because what has happened, presuming in your the matters itself, as you were referring, the reference court granted about 100 rupees a marla. Now, by the time it was decided by the Honorable Supreme Court or wherever, finally it became 350 rupees a marla, but about 20-30 years had passed. Now, Amrit Lal says that similarly situated should get the same compensation, though the interest for the delay in filing should not be given. Now, what should be the delay? That is not defined, and how much could be condoned?
No. See, this is an academic discussion, and I'll take you to that judgment also. My first take on that judgment, and actually, let me tell you, I did argue it, this very point, just about 3 months ago in the Supreme Court. But unfortunately, it was in a review petition where the lawyer had already got it dismissed twice. So I could not really put it up in that way. So what everybody seems to be forgetting is the right to receive compensation or the right to receive solatium and interest is a statutory right. Even the Honorable Supreme Court has forgotten it. It's a statutory right. And if you go back to a Supreme Court judgment in the 1990s, where they said that solatium follows compensation like a shadow follows a person. If you remember that judgment, I think it's a judgment of Honorable the Chief Justice, Justice Punchi that time, follows like a shadow. So how can you say we are giving you compensation, but we will deprive you of interest for a period of 15 years or 17 years, correct?
Right.
Now, this is a point which needs to be reconsidered, and let's hope they reconsider, because I personally, as a not as a lawyer, as a student of law, am against it, because you cannot, no court, and the Supreme Court says it every day. Every court says it every day. No court can deprive a person of his statutory benefits. These are statutory benefits. These are not benefits which anybody is doling out to you. Solatium, if you read that judgment of mine, that Golden Iron, National Highway Authority, there's one para devoted to what is solatium. I've specifically said it is not some charity which the government doles out to a person. It's his right. It's solace. So how can you be interest on that? How can you deprive him? Number two, everybody's forgotten. And please raise this point next time. And request the judge that please raise this point. And request him that my right to file cross objection is still alive. You understood? You understood me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My right to cross objection, despite that one judgment of our court saying it is from Farzi only, from the service of Farzi notice. There's one judgment, I am aware of that.
Yes, sir.
That 30 days will commence from there. But no, it commences from the date of actual date hearing. Even these need to be re-clarified. So my right to file cross objections is still alive. If it's still alive, where's the question of delay? This is my legal take on it.
Right, so thank you, sir.
As far
Thank
as
you
the
so
Supreme
much.
Court judgment is concerned, they've killed you. You can't do anything.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's QED. It's all over.
Rajiv Malhotra has posted on my WhatsApp. Can Shamlat land in the view of Suraj Bhan case when acquired, even if it's not Jumla Mushtarka Malkan, be awarded compensation?
1 minute. First, let me clarify that this is a Haryana matter or a Punjab matter. Please answer.
It should be from Punjab because Rajiv is basically from Punjab. I take from that, but I will ask him to post it on my WhatsApp or the Facebook.
Okay, if it is, I'll make the distinction again between the two, because this is also part of my, call it USP or my whatever little work I've done in my life.
So that is why everybody wanted that you should come and pitch in on the land acquisition, because they knew that nobody else could explain it.
No,
and
but
we were all discussing amongst the team. Probably there's no webinar on the land acquisition so far. Pan-India.
Intentionally avoided doing land acquisition when I was a High Court judge, and you are aware of the reason, all of you, why I avoided it. Now, what I'm telling you is, in Punjab, Jumla Mushtarka Malkan is not Shamlat. In Haryana, Jumla Mushtarka Malkan is Shamlat Day because of an amendment. But that has been struck down in that matter which he's referring to, Suraj Bhan and the other case. That is
clarified it's Punjab's matter.
It's Punjab.
They just posted on the Facebook.
Then it's Jumla. If it's what is acquired, Shamlat is acquired.
Just clarify that.
If Shamlat is acquired, if Shamlat is acquired, the compensation will go to the Panchayat. If Jumla Mushtarka Malkan is acquired, compensation will go to the proprietors. Because please go back to Ajit Singh versus State of Punjab, I think it's 1966, Supreme Court, where the Consolidation Act was upheld and the village common land was upheld by saying that this cut which is being applied is for the benefit of the villagers. So there is no compulsory acquisition. The ownership continues to vest with the proprietors and only possessory title is given to the Panchayat. So the Panchayat can at best claim some rights of possessory title. Compensation for Jumla Mushtarka Malkan must go to the proprietors. This is a matter, I don't know if any matters pending in the High Court on this.
Rajiv has clarified, Shamlat has been acquired.
Then it goes to the Panchayat. Sir, if you are Jumla Mushtarka Malkan, you are out.
Okay. Deepak Verma. How solatium is exactly defined and how it is added to the market value? As now it is 100%, would it mean if market value is 1000, whether another rupees 1000 is to be added? Kindly clarify.
Can we have the, no, where do we get the section from? 1 minute. Let me take out the section first. If you can just type, whoever is asked the question, if you can type section 30 of this right to fair.
I will ask Vishal Agarwal to share it. Vishal just shared section 30 of the
on his own phone.
No, Vishal can post it. Vishal, I will do it. Vishal, I know Vishal. No, Vishal will post it from the online. I know that he can do it.
Everybody can read it.
Or Javeed Chandel is also there, I suppose. Javeed Chandel can share it.
Javeed, if you can do it, can you do it? Anyway, I have it with me. Because
Javeed,
when
do the needful. I'm unmuting Javeed Chandel, sir.
Okay, please.
Can we claim compensation for a constructed building of a tenant? So Vishal has shared it. Thank you, Vishal.
Okay. In the meanwhile, I can say that. See, like I told you, property has many rights in it. One is and it is a bundle of rights. It includes possessory title also. A tenant has possessory title. Please understand that. I hope everybody understands. So a tenant, even if it's a building which is acquired, he's a tenant, he is entitled to compensation. Why? His possessory title is acquired. So normally they grant 1/3. I hope it's clear. Possessory title and proprietary title. Always, please, my request to all lawyers is when you use the word title, please understand all these things. It's a bundle of rights. It's not just one right of ownership. You can do anything. Payment of compensation. Can we just, I hope everybody is able to read it.
Vishal, could you increase the font size percentage wise? Just try that.
Oh, new act, sir.
So, meanwhile, we have Kulbir Minhas. He does a lot of cases of NHI. We will unmute him. He's wanting to ask one question. Because everybody knows that NHI matters. Your judgment was ultimately affirmed in the Honorable Supreme Court.
I'm the culprit.
No, किसी के लिए माँ स्वादी था, किसी के लिए बर्बादी. I'm just unmuting Kulbir Minhas.
No,
so meanwhile,
yes, please.
Vikashsheel. Kulbir, you can ask your question directly.
Yeah, please.
Sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So my question is quite to this part only, that you have dealt the severance part.
Yeah.
In your entire session, sir. I just wanted to put a question with regard to that. If in any circumstances national highway is being laid down in a greenfield area, a land of a farmer has been bifurcated in two parts.
Yes.
And there was nothing prior to that construction of national highway. In that scenario, once a national highway has been laid down, can he ask for the severance from the national highway? Because keeping into mind, there is an enabling provision under section 26 or 23rd of Control of National Highway Act in 2002, that he can always ask for the access from the government, to have access from the government for the land which has been acquired and the remaining land which has been left with him. Can in that scenario, can he ask for the severance or not, sir? Because once national highway has been laid down, the remaining land of the person will always have a higher potentiality than in the earlier circumstances when it was in a greenfield area.
You are Mr. Minhas, na?
Kulbir Minhas is primarily Jalandhar based, and he also comes to the High Court.
Okay, Mr. Minhas, there is one very fundamental principle in land acquisition: assessment of compensation.
Yes.
To what use the beneficiary puts the land is irrelevant for the person whose land is acquired. Whether you construct a highway, whether you construct an airport, or whether you construct a huge mall, it is irrelevant for me. My land is mine, and I am not bothered what you use it for. What user of the land is totally irrelevant. Now coming to the severance part. Severance, I will be entitled to claim severance on the principles under the Land Acquisition Act, and under the new act also it's the same thing, on the ground that there is some damage being caused to my property. I cannot use it in that manner which I would have but for your highway passing through. Now what you people do is, you generally have an underpass, but you only have an underpass where there is a big hotel or restaurant on the highway. And for farmers, you have overpasses where they can't take their tractors.
VOP and other things.
Please go and see your highways.
Yes, sir. No issue.
Please go and see. And at a lot of places, your underpasses are not even connected to the ground. I'm talking about the Delhi highway. They're still 5 feet hanging in the air.
It will be.
Vishal, you can share that section 30 on Solatium.
Does that answer that question, Mr. Minhas?
Sir, Vishal has shared it.
Yes,
Vishal,
yes,
just
yes.
improve the percentage.
Yeah.
Though he's also posted on the chat box.
Yeah, it's already given here in complete detail. The collector, having determined the total compensation to be paid, means compensation in the previous sections, shall to arrive at the final award, what's it written? The word is cut over, a sum of 100% of the compensation amount. So whatever he assesses as compensation, it shall become 100% more. Now that's why no government is acquiring land.
Paramjit Rajput, can Solatium and ease money both be claimed, or both are synonyms according to you?
Solatium and
ease money.
Ease money. I'm sorry. I
will unmute Paramjit Rajput. Paramjit Rajput, we are unmuting you.
Where is Mr. Rajput now?
Mr. Paramjit Rajput is regularly following our webinars. We are just doing. We have unmuted Paramjit. Yes, Paramjit.
Good afternoon, sir. So this is Paramjit Rajput.
Yes, yes.
My
Oh, you are there. You are right there.
Yeah, my father is also sitting next to me.
Okay.
My question is that in Arbitration and Conciliation Act, can we claim solacium as well as ease money?
You mean under the National Highway Authority of India?
Yes, because solacium is granted at the rate of 30% and ease money is granted at the rate of 10%.
Whatever it is, you read the latest Supreme Court when they were formed.
That's the same thing. If I
No. That golden iron judgment in the National Highway Authority of India, it specifically says no solacium and interest. Correct? But I read into it those provisions. Now the Supreme Court has made some change. Please read the last para of the Supreme Court judgment.
Probably Justice Ronington and Justice Suregan.
Yes, I don't remember the citation, but I think that's one of the most important judgments that has come under acquisition law for the last many years. Not mine, the Supreme Court's.
So it draws analogy as to how the land acquisition as well as NHI would have the bearing, and it takes certain major aspects of your judgment has been taken into consideration.
Thank you so much.
But as long as it's been affirmed and it's done good for people, that's the most important part. Is that people have got money. The
title is the same thing. The Union of India versus the same thing.
The best part is that people have got money for their land.
Sir, the associate from my office has posted Union of India versus the same thing.
Yes.
Minhas would be knowing the exact citation also. We will also post it.
Yes. Anything else, sir?
So what is Prashant Chaudhary? You had introduced in one of the webinars. He's a regular follower. I will just unmute him. He has a personal question on the NHI right to fair compensation, how to maintain the balance. Mr. Chaudhary, we are unmuting you. Prashant Chaudhary.
Yeah, Prashant. You have unmuted him, I think.
I will meanwhile read his question. A short take on the NHI land acquisition based on the Land Acquisition 1989 and right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. What is your take on that?
Also there's a National Highways Act of 1956. So there's a confusion here in our courts as to kind of decide on what the National Highway, is to act under the National Highway Act or the Lara Act or the...
See, the 56 Act doesn't have the power to acquire.
No, but the problem with the 1956 Act is the NHAI is claiming, they're claiming that Act overrides the Land Acquisition Act.
Yeah, because then read the, it sounds like I'm repeating myself. Read my judgment. Go to that.
Okay.
And read the Supreme Court, this one, where they've affirmed it. The entire act has been taken into...
I will ask Mr. Chaudhary to just go through the judgment of the same thing.
See, I can just explain to you again. Before the land was initially a state subject, but central government, then it was put into the concurrent list.
Yeah.
So now anybody can legislate and the states can make amendments. But the NHAI is a peculiar act.
Yes.
Because highways are under the state. National highways are under the state. So this is the first time that a highway authority has been given a power to acquire land. Which is, in my opinion, not the right thing to do. We are sort of going far beyond the power of just an executive authority to start acquiring land.
And
sorry, that's another discussion for another place.
As per the National Highway, when they construct the Golden Quadrilateral Highway, the damage that they do to the properties alongside the land, say there was a boy who drowned in a pond created by them. Now, what are the rights of the parents of the boy or the landowners whose land has not been acquired, but the land has been damaged, fertile land has been damaged?
That will be ordinary civil rights.
Ordinary civil rights, right.
So, we are unmuting Saurav Khurana, who has been the former Secretary of the Bar. Large chunk of his land in Panipat, etc. was acquired. Saurav Khurana and Mr. Ashok Khurana are
Are you one of the victims of the reduction of compensation?
It's just coming.
Is that sort of, are you victim of that?
Yes, sir. I would say yes, because I was hearing to your insight on the entire thing. So, as you've rightly said, that the farmer would get peanuts for his lands.
That's true.
And that has been the irony of the situation, and much couldn't be done. I've been trying to learn a bit of land acquisition. Sir, I have just two questions, in fact, came to my mind. One was that it is regarding the severance of the land. So if somebody is awarded compensation for severance of the land, then in that eventuality, is he entitled for the statutory benefits also or not, sir?
Why not? It's part of compensation. It's part of market value. No? I gave you the factors. Read Land
Again, Saurabh will have to read that same judgment.
No. Read Land Acquisition Act, Section 23.
Sir.
I have it with me. Just open it. Severance is a part of 23. Market value plus these things.
Just post it.
If somebody can post it.
So Vishal will do it. Vishal will do it.
I see, in a webinar, reading out is terrible.
So meanwhile, I will ask, Suvir has posted one question on the Facebook. Suvir Sethu, who is the former secretary of the member bar and presently member bar council. How important is consent in the land acquisition? And in case the land records are unclear or contrary, then how does the claim, any dependent as well, press on it while seeking to challenge or enhance, seeking challenge or enhancement?
See, this question is in two parts. One is, I'll answer the second one first, that if his title is not clear, then he has to go under Section 30 to the district court to get his title cleared. And that's whatever the judgment is there. Then rest, if he wants enhancement, he has to go under Section 18 under the old act. Under the new act, there is a procedure for consent. Once you consent, then there's no question of any appeal, etc. But you can go. And actually what they've done is, under the new act, I don't know, maybe since all you lawyers are more or less, we have Mr. Minhas here. Mr. Minhas.
Sir, I will unmute Minhas because Minhas has been doing a lot of cases on this.
This is a question which has been exercising. I'm sorry, I am also entitled to ask questions.
Yes, yes. Kulbir, we are unmuting, and kindly show your video also. People should know your face also.
Anybody can answer this question, even because since he's in the district courts.
No, sir, he also comes to the High Court. Ishan Gupta, meanwhile, I will read the question of Ishan Gupta. Can the award made by the arbitrator under the National Highway Act be modified under Section 34 of the Arbitration Act by a district judge in land acquisition matters filed by the landowners?
I don't know what's the procedure of appeal filed under the NHAI Act.
So we have same as there.
Only under Section 34.
If you could come under 34, it's final, na? It's final.
Yes, sir. It's under Section 34 only, sir. We are doing it.
Does the NHAI Act say it is fine? It's under Section 34. Is applies.
NHAI Act, as per Section 3G5 is concerned, they say the arbitrator has to be appointed by the government only, and once the arbitration has been appointed, automatically it will fall under the Arbitration Act only.
No, so there's no provision for arbitration, na? When I read the act,
please,
frankly speaking, you cannot confer jurisdiction on yourself.
Definitely, sir.
So, see, we read the Land Acquisition Act. That's how we got solatium interest for people.
Definitely.
Correct? Now here, I don't know how you people are all filing under Section 34. Because Arbitration Act, it doesn't say is applicable. It's an award of an arbitrator. Now, I'll give you an example. Please start studying this also. There is a provision for arbitration.
May I read the relevant section, sir? It is under Section 3G6, sir.
Please do.
Subject to the provision of this Act, I'm reading Section 3G6 of National Highway Act 1956, sir.
Yes, yes.
Subject to the provision of this Act, the provision of Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996 shall apply to every arbitration under this Act.
So then it applies. You were saying it doesn't apply.
So it applies, sir. That is why
it applies. That is what he said at the first instance.
But what they've done in the new act now over here is they have removed the district judge.
Sir.
In the new act.
So that is why we are seeing. So now what is happened is in 2014, 31/12/2014, there was a.
Can you show your video? We want to see your face also.
Sir, actually, I'm sitting in Parna. I'm not wearing pagdi. That is why I was not.
Okay, it's okay. It's fine.
When you're a land acquisition lawyer, doesn't make any difference.
Okay, sir. I'll show you that. I'll show you that. Sir, please.
But sir, ek changi gala, he's sitting in the office. That shows his dedication.
Perfectly all right, Mr. Minhas. Bilkul theek hai.
Actually, sir, I was not wearing pagdi. That is why I was not saying. I was not wearing pagdi. Nothing else. So what I was saying before yourself is, sir, that why the National Highway has come into operate and they are pursuing the things. There is a manual of guidelines of National Highway which is already on the internet, sir. This which we have already downloaded from the National Highway website only. And
guidelines for assessment of compensation.
Sir, yes, sir. It is part of a manual of guidelines on the land acquisition for national highways under the National Highway Act 1956, sir. It is readily available. It runs into somewhere around 128 or 200 pages, sir, which have the entire things. Now, what has happened, which I wanted to share with every speaker, every person who is on the this webinar, what has happened in December 2014, there was a amendment by way of the notification which has been brought by the government that any award which is yet to be announced or yet to be announced, or any acquisition which has been done but award has not been announced, that award will operate as per the provisions, or that award has to be calculated, or amount of the determination has to be done as per the provisions of new act, sir, of new act of 2013, right to pay compensation new act, sir. That has to be done in that manner only. And that notification has been persuaded by, and that has been adopted, but some of the section has been adopted, sir, because of the reason why it has been done under the section 105 of Land and New Act. This is right to pay act, sir.
Minhas, before you show other things, some people are saying kindly share the name of the this thing, or you just chat it down later on so that the people can download it. I know it because I am appearing for NHI just like you.
Yes.
So you can just chat it down. And Mr. Minhas, you can just clarify along with that, Justice Bhalla, your severance parts, because NHI, this litigation cost, severance, etc. does come in, and you have done a lot of work on that.
Yes, and please go ahead with severance. Don't stop it.
Hey, we are already giving, sir. We are already.
Don't be a judge in your own cause.
No, we are not. We are already giving on the national side, but sometimes
let the judges decide.
Yes, sir, it has to be, sir. But we just want that parameter should be completed and everything has to be done before.
There can never be certainty in law.
Yes, sir. That is there, sir.
There can be certainty in law. No. Yes, there will never be certainty in law. Definitely. Because one lawyer says this lawyer is wrong. Same thing happens on the bench also.
Definitely.
So every day it comes. So now they'll have more, okay. They want to get rid of that solatium and interest judgment, that means.
No, sir, we don't want to. Now we are paying, sir.
NHAI.
NHAI, we are paying, sir. I am appearing on the behalf of NHAI, number of courts, sir. Now we are
100%. Are you paying?
We are claiming
100%.
100% solatium we are paying, sir.
Sir, we have also posted, the team has already posted on the this chat box. One of my associate, Devika, because I am also appearing for NHI. Union of India versus the same thing. Citation is 2019, volume 4, RCR Civil 431. It grants 100% solatium and strikes down section 3J being violative of article 40. So now even under the NHI, solatium and interest is being granted as on date.
Yes, that's
Mr. Minhas.
Please, sir. Sir, that has been done by yourself only in Golden Era judgment, sir, which we have read thoroughly. And insofar as sometimes the other lawyers and come and say that even the NHA Act has been repealed, then we always strike a balance saying that insofar as NHA Act is concerned, that has never been appealed by sir, Justice Rajiv Bhalla, sir. It is
that has been upheld by me.
Yes, that has been upheld by you, sir. Rather, it is part to the, so insofar as it is not giving the benefits part to the solatium and interest is concerned, that has been made applicable to NHA cases as well, sir. Now, insofar as 23 section clause 2 and 28 is concerned, we are making the payments. We are definitely now, after the pronouncement of after the pronouncement of Union of India and Tarseem Singh, the government is thinking to give the additional benefit of 23 clause 1 also, sir. Because earlier in your judgment, it was not there.
It is not there. It is not there. I know.
I beg to say that. Please don't get me wrong, sir.
No, I know it.
Yes.
There was a
That is
reason
why now Union of India's judgment, now they say Union of India versus Tarseem Singh judgment, now Union is deciding to give that amount in other cases. Insofar as cases are concerned from 31/12/2014 is concerned, any award which has been passed, that is compartment in District Ludhiana or in Patiala, as well as in towards that Kartarpur corridor is also concerned, sir. We are already including the part of 12%, that is additional market value is concerned, that we are already giving as per the new act, sir.
big problem.
I mean, ask any particular question on behalf of NHI, you can ask. We have the expertise of Justice Bhalla. Whatever difficulties we are facing.
So we will definitely, but then some other guests also, they must be asking some other questions.
Ajit Gaikwad is just asking.
The NHI would like to lynch me.
No, sir, not at all, sir. We all are legal humans.
For that judgment.
नहीं सर, आपकी जजमेंट पढ़ के ही तो सर हमें भी समझ में आता है, नहीं तो हमें भी कहाँ समझ में आना था सर. आपकी 2008 में जजमेंट आई है सर, मैं 2009 में वकील बना हूँ सर. उसके बाद ही तो पढ़ के तो बने हैं सर, आपकी जजमेंट ही तो पढ़ रहे हैं सर. That was there, sir.
Any other questions there?
Sir, yes, Advocate Vikas Sheel Verma. Panchayat land was acquired, but now there is no Gram Panchayat MC. Then who will get the compensation?
It'll go to the MC.
Okay.
Because
and next question is, sir, how does it?
There is a judgment, Justice Saro's full bench, which has said that it will revert back to the proprietor. See which state you are in. Are you in Punjab or Haryana? Then please look at that judgment. There's a full bench, 5 judges bench.
Yes, it came immediately after your superannuation round sometime thereafter. Sahil, my client's land is in an unauthorized colony, which now has been legalized by the government of Delhi. He doesn't have the possession and ownership. What remedy is available to him?
No, he doesn't have the possession and ownership. Then there's no remedy. He has to have one at least. Huh? He's owner. He says, what he's saying is, my land is situated in an unauthorized colony. So is he the owner? Who's asked this?
I'll just check out.
Because if you're neither owner nor in possession, then where's the question of anything?
Sahil has asked. We will unmute Sahil.
Oh, please do.
Interestingly, first time we had the questions on the Facebook also. So we were always going. Sahil.
I for one would request you that webinar is all right, but if you can have 2 judges, 2 lawyers sitting across in a joint this thing, and everybody keeps shooting their questions, I think that might turn out to be quite good also.
So we are planning in Justice Muralidhar's and Justice Madan Lokur's webinar. We had a session, more of an interactive session. Now we are again having one of the webinars we are planning on living relationship when it can be considered as a rape, etc. We are all going that it should be a more interactive session because it will be a subject which people will are quite interesting because on the WhatsApp, on my WhatsApp I'm daily getting that we should have a webinar on living relationship, whether it can amount to rape and what under what circumstances, or if it is not, then in what circumstances. Then Ajit Gaikwad Patil, how to determine compensation in case of non-agricultural land?
Same process. In case of non-agricultural land, quality of land, nature of land, location, size of plot, whatever you are, what are the evidences you are citing, how relevant they are, proof of sale, all those same factors. Agriculture, non-agriculture doesn't matter. The only problem I was referring to agriculture is because 95% of the acquisition takes place from agriculture. And it is, that's what I'm saying.
We have unmuted Sahil. Sahil can ask the question.
Yeah. Please
Sahil.
Hello. Hello.
Yes. Anji, we are able to hear you.
Sir, my question is that he is the owner of the property, but not have the possession.
Who has the possession?
No. So my client, his land is in unauthorized colony, which is now legalized by the government of Delhi.
So, all right, but you are the owner, no?
But sir, there are many people which have the possession, they have the power of attorney. They now go to DDA and register their deeds. Then what is the available remedy to us?
But the land has not been acquired, no?
So, but they have the
This is not a
possession
land
now.
acquisition advice, no?
They,
You'll have to follow civil suits, or you'll have to find out who has given them the power of attorneys.
Vishal Bagde, he's a student of a lawyer from Delhi CLC. He asks, I have a general query. How can we sensitize the people regarding the effective legal awareness amongst the illiterate people where there's forceful land acquisition?
See, first of all, land acquisition is always forceful. Nobody is happy to give his land. So that is why it's called compulsory acquisition of land. Though the new act uses a different word. It's compulsory acquisition of land. I had said it's the doctrine of eminent domain, which gives the government the power to deprive me of my land. That's why I called it a brutal listing. Now, awareness, I've actually personally find this thing in not being aware of it. The only thing is everybody comes to court. Our lawyers on the land acquisition side are very active. All lawyers sitting who do land acquisition work would understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
The moment Section 4 comes, lawyers are already there. I'm sorry to say it, but that's what happens.
So,
sensitize.
Devika Raj wants to ask a question. Devika, we are unmuting you. Meanwhile, Himanshu Kanda. There was a case in Patiala related to Omax City in which land was bought from the farmers by PUDA on government rates and later on sold to private company Omax at higher rates. And further, Omax sold at much higher rates. In the whole case, farmers were cheated and now Omax is charging it. It's now charging from persons who are building house in colony.
You see, once land is acquired, we have Section 49. Once possession is taken, there's no question of return of any land. So if anybody says that so-and-so has been cheated, etc., the law does not permit return of any land once it is vested. Possession is taken, it vests in the government, and all other rights, title, interest, whether easementary or possessory or proprietary, come to an end. So there's nothing that can be done. It's only, these are socio-political battles, which are generally, courts have no remedy for them. So I won't add anything more to that.
Sir, one question from the chat box and then we will unmute Devika and when we'll wind up. Ajit Gaikwad Patil, how important is the valuation report from the government valuers in the land acquisition matters?
See, it depends on state to state. Like I said, each state has a right to make its own rules and regulations. In some states, there are rules. We have in Punjab, we have something called Standing Order number 28, which is issued by the Financial Commissioner. Please go through that. All lawyers who practice on the land acquisition side, Standing Order number 28, which gives you the method of assessing of compensation and looking at everything. Similarly, it may be in other states also. And actually, if you don't have a circumstances, assessment by valuers can also be a relevant factor. But then the valuer only is like a local commissioner. His report is not binding on the court. The court can discard it because it's up to the court to accept or reject. There's nothing which is binding. Even a sale deed is not binding. A court can say it is not relevant. Eventually in law, in every law, whatever law you may have, every document, every piece of evidence, whether oral, written, documentary, question is one of relevance. So if his deposition is relevant to the court will consider it. If not, the court will reject it.
Sir, again, I just received the message from Dr. Bimaldeep Singh. You know him very well, he's from the GND. Two combined questions. Whether income tax authority can realize tax if the enhanced rate is awarded by the court. Why gap in acquisition rate and revenue rate is there?
Income tax is not payable on compensation. income tax is payable on the interest. That matter has been settled by the Supreme Court. Initially, there was a lot of dispute and confusion. The only confusion left under the Income Tax Act is in which year will the amount be assessed? In the year of payment, or in the year of or in the year in which the land was acquired. Even that has been settled. So that is not the second question. What was the second question?
The second was why there is a gap in the acquisition rate and the revenue rate?
Because the rate of acquisition between the revenue rate, what he means to say is the registration of a document, rate for registration of a document. That is a document created under the Registration Act, and it has got it's like a taxing provision. It has got nothing to do with the market value per se, because that is the value which they say we will not register below this. You are welcome to register above that. So therefore, that is not reflective. But in the new Act, if he is listening, or if you can send it to him, in the new Act, there is a section, I didn't purposely go there because we are still not there, where the register value of that register is also relevant in the new Act. I think it's somewhere after section 11. I can just quickly, if I'm able to.
Mr. Bimal Singh is not there.
Okay. Apps of social impact, hearing of objections. It's somewhere 24, 25, 26. 26, 1 small a. In fact, all those who are doing the new Act, my request to you is test this argument in court. Say that once Parliament itself has, under the new Act, allowed market value, if any, specified in the Stamp Act, then why should we import it to the Land Acquisition Act? Because normally it gets rejected. These ones get rejected. So you can start using.
Vishal has posted on the group.
You can start using this, it is there. Try and use it. Push the envelope, like I always say.
So the last question before we formally do the vote of thanks, etc., and a take from you on the profession, etc. Devika wants to ask a question. She is a practicing lawyer in the High Court itself. Devika, you can pose the question to the sir. That is the last question for the day.
Yes, Devika.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, if severance of the land adds to the value of the land, let's say a newly constructed national highway runs through the land parcel, so it increases the value of the land on the either side of the. So will it be appropriate to grant severance, compensation for severance to the landowners? And so will it be a plausible argument if you are contesting on behalf of NHAI?
This argument has been rejected repeatedly right up to the Supreme Court. And the basic foundation of the law is that the use to which the authority that acquires the land puts it is irrelevant for the purpose of assessing compensation. But yes, the Union of India keeps raising it, NHAI keeps raising it, everybody keeps raising it. But how is it relevant to me? Take an example. I have my land. You acquire my land. I'm not giving it to you. You acquire my land because you need it. I don't need you. I don't need you. Please remember this. And then you say, your land value is increased, so I won't pay you severance. I mean, that can't be an argument. I'm sorry, but I'm emphatic in my opinion on that.
Thank you so much, sir.
But please keep raising it. Some honorable judge may fall prey to your argument.
So the pray and pray have the different magics in their own way.
Yeah, this
one can be a pray and one can always pray.
Yes, please.
Sir, thank you. It has been a wonderful session. The persons who are watching us on the Facebook and those who couldn't connect today, the only reason was that we had created a Google form for the participation because we were not able to track the persons who were sometimes chatting on the chat box, and we were not able to trace why it has been done. So tomorrow we are having a session on the criminal jurisprudence. I'm just giving the topic. So kindly fill the forms in advance so that you don't face the difficulty. The topic is Appreciation of evidence in criminal law by Justice N. Nagamattu, who is a former judge of the Madras High Court and is a senior advocate in Supreme Court. His one can always follow him up on various YouTube channels. He's an expert in the criminal law. So it's according to us a must watch, because Beyond Law team CLC makes an endeavor to bring the best person who knows the nitty-gritties of that law in the depth. Justice Bhalla is an example, a live example today, though we are live on Facebook also, that he knows the law beyond this land acquisition, beyond the comprehensions.
You mean?
And thank you, sir. It was a wonderful session. I just wanted, before we wind up, how do we connect all these laws like you have been able to do, like revenue law, then land acquisition, then Act of 2013, then NHAI, and sometimes when we were the lawyers and we had the occasion to appear before you, and sometimes while we were not even arguing, but when we were noticing that the questions posed or the lawyer not coming out with that idea, but still you could do it. What is your take? How to develop that habit to go beyond, as you were saying, pushing the envelope further? How to develop that habit of pushing the envelope further in the thought process?
See, it's very simple. Number one, it comes with experience. Number two, as a lawyer, one must learn to expose oneself to as many things as possible, and not just think because I do only civil law, therefore I'll not try to understand criminal law, I won't understand revenue, I won't try and understand service law, but we all get captives of that. But it's all part of the game. This comes by experience only. This comes actually by experience.
For experience also you have to study, otherwise they say मजदूर तो 100 रुपए कमा रहा है, दूसरा आदमी लाख रुपए घंटे का कमा रहा है.
Absolutely.
So the difference, why that comes. A lawyer doesn't even earn in few thousands in a day, while others are earning in lakhs in a month. For how do you create that niche? You have been in a high court, you are now practicing in the Supreme Court, you have been a judge, you have seen all facets of the profession. What is your take, and what do you suggest to the lawyers to do? Vishal is quite gleeing across while I am posing these questions, and same is with Rita Kohli. They are both acknowledging that we should learn from these nuances from you.
What's the difference between a Jaguar and a Maruti? Answer it.
So it goes a lot of efforts behind that, lot of brand building. It's a multiple facet factor. So we just want to know the nuances, how to become a Jaguar, and not Maruti of this thing. It has its own people. But how to create the niche for that?
See, we all keep on saying, hard work, hard work, hard work. But then actually in this profession, there is no other option. There is no other option. Lots of people say that a person is related to a particular judge. Let me be very, very clear about this. Or that you belong to this family or that family. It may be true to a certain extent. But you see, every bar has so many casualties from those privileged backgrounds also. For every one who succeeds, there are 10 who don't. So that same principle applies. There is no option but to work hard and to just sit down, and that's the only thing you are actually living for. Just work, 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 rest. I'm sorry to say, failure is always founded on excuses.
Point well taken. That
I come from a business family. I am a first generation lawyer. I don't come from a rural area, and I give lectures on revenue law. So you can just think how much of effort must have gone into just understanding what a Jamamandi and a Kasagidari is.
So the point well taken, that working hard and working hardly creates the entire difference.
And there is no, you cannot say that. You can't, see, everybody says work hard, work hard. There are lawyers who come to me and said, sir, you keep saying work hard, but we don't have any work. So where do we work on? So that is the binomial theorem, or that is call it the law of nature. Somebody has to find out. You've got to listen. Lakshmi सबके दरवाजे पे दस्तक देती है, पर सुनने वाला सफल हो जाता है, जो नहीं सुनता
but it also says that when the opportunity comes, you have to latch upon it. It is just like the flowing water. The same flowing water doesn't touch the same point twice. So you have to catch it upon it.
Understand, in life and in this profession, there is no free meal. There is no free meal. Nobody is here. Of course, your friends will help you and all. But everybody is trying to get ahead in his own work. So you can't expect कि कोई आपको इधर help करेगा. Yes, you will make friends in the profession who you will brief and they will brief you. You got to develop those sort of relationships also. But एक ही बात होती है, आपको बैठना ही पड़ेगा. फाइलें खोल के जो भी है, अगर अपनी नहीं खोलोगे तो किसी के ऑफिस में खोलोगे. तो ये मत सोचो. Nobody, please don't think कि I've been in an office for 2 years, not time to move. Time to move is only when you have your own work. Time to move is not when you feel कि 2 years और ये देखो 6 महीने बाद हो गया independent, ये 8 महीने बाद हो गया. I mean, it's just you got to see what you have in you. And from time to time, everybody has to make a value judgment on his own abilities and then cut your corners or your cloth as per your abilities.
It's a point well taken. I'm just reminded what you said, that you have to create your space. Being an added member of the law faculty, we had this time Honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant, the judge from the Supreme Court. He said that when initially he came into the profession, that he used to do a lot of drafting. And the lawyers, others used to start giving him drafting. And once he used to connect the people, and the clients contacted him thereafter, and then he created his niche. And we all know the way he has, he's also a first generation lawyer, and then he has established his name.
Therefore, these are the examples I give everybody, na? That forget what is person A or what is person B. Think, what are you doing? Think, how are you taking yourself forward? Opportunity will come to everybody. किसी को थोड़ी आएगी, किसी को ज़्यादा आएगी. तो ये नहीं होगा कि किसी को opportunity नहीं आएगी. There are people in our court also who, if you speak to them outside the court, cannot speak even one sentence of English straight. But they do so well in court. There are so many of them. And it's not even English. It's not even the language. It's not somebody's fault that if my parents were not able to send me to a good school, or if my parents sent me to a good school, it's not my fault. Either way, it's not my fault. But because I have worked, you have worked, all of you are working, that's why. Later you won't be here in this webinar. No?
So the way you said, we had on this platform, the Advocate General Haryana, Mr. B.R. Mahajan. He also told that he had a handicap slightly with the English and the communication skill. Yes. Therefore, he started developing the art of drafting, the art of finding law. And we all know that how he has risen from the profession. We all look upon him. He is a benchmark for all of us, that how we have to develop. And so thank you. It has been a very engaging session. We have learned a lot. The points which were just like as you said, the learning of the land revenue initially at your starting stage. We all believe that a lot of us will take a cue from that and will try to understand the nitty-gritties of the land laws. Amongst us, we have Rita Kohli, the former Additional Advocate General from Punjab, and a senior advocate and a passionate social worker. We thought there couldn't be a more befitting vote of thanks from a person who has created her own niche in her own sphere. Over to you, Rita Kohli.
Thank you. Very good afternoon, sir, and all the participants.
Ma'am, kindly come closer to the mic, please.
Am I here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm saying it's been the most dynamic, most enchanting, and most lively sessions we've attended. Sir has given us so much food for thought on a topic. Honestly, I couldn't have thought of that there could be so much of lively engagement by each one of us. Sir, in the court also, you've always been able to bring out the best among each one of us. The most friendly judge, and a judge who's never bothered to, take up the issues which are the most hotter, or I would say most contentious, be it the drug issues or the mining mafias or anybody where, and there couldn't have been anybody better than you to actually teach us. I would say each one of us is a student as far as the subject of law is concerned. An expert like you on revenue, an expert like you on land matters have done more than full justice to the topic, the subject, and honestly, we didn't even realize how the time flew by. And before I wind up, I would also like to say thank you to Beyond Law, to Mr. Vikas Chapter, who's actually brought all of us together on these platforms to learn from experts like Justice Bhalla on various topics. And thank you each one of you for being part of it and making it a more lively session. And we look forward to more and more such enchanting discussions which leave us with lot of food for thought. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much for having me. And now can I leave?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And stay, everyone stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you, everyone. Stay connected with us for future webinars.